Hi, I'm Bob Batcher, Executive Director of Prime Plus Senior Centers, and this is Prime Time with Bob. And I am with a friend, Judith Brown, who I know as a missionary, as somebody who's really high up in our transit, and a caring advocate and citizen, who you have spent your morning doing what?
Well, I've been watching the Redistricting Commission for the Commonwealth of Virginia look at the new maps, the first draft of the new maps for the districts that have just been redrawn in draft form.
So other people have been getting coffee and doing exercise and getting their day started. How long have you been doing Zooming and really seeing what's going on in our state?
Well, this process I got fascinated with about 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe, when I realized I went to some kind of seminar and finally it came through to me how important it is, how the lines are drawn and that they make sense to all the citizens. When we talk about which representative is representing me and which delegate and which senator and so on is representing my area.
Okay, because I'm going to be real upfront. Most of our viewers are saying, okay, when's election day and who should I vote for? And that's where the conversation begins and ends. But you're an active member of the League of Women Voters, right?
Right.
And that gives you kind of not just a platform, but kind of an agenda of what's important and how to pursue in advocacy, right?
It does. It does. The League is very specific. We're nonpartisan. We are fiercely nonpartisan, which means you won't see us wearing red and blue or blue.
Okay.
So yeah, and we're very careful. We can't have we sponsored meet the candidates or debate sometimes, and we can't have one of those unless both party candidates agree to show up, etc.
And that's kind of how I got introduced were the debates. But again, it doesn't just start with the debate. It really starts on being engaged all the time, right?
Well, not everybody's going to want to be engaged
Right.
all the time, but it's kind of dangerous not to pay any attention until right up at the last few weeks, which we're in now before an election.
So let me ask you, you're a good friend. Am I going to have the chance to vote for the same district this year as I did last election?
Yes.
Or will the change come? Oh, okay.
It hasn't changed yet. It should have changed, but it hasn't changed yet. The problem was the COVID pandemic, and that made the census slower than usual. And that meant the results came out later than usual. And in a couple of states, Virginia, and I think it's New Jersey, have elections, important elections in November. We have to use the old maps on these elections. So it hasn't changed yet.
So the census is what really drives the conversation about where the population is and therefore where the district should be.
Right.
It's not about being red or blue and how we voted in the past. No.
And we're trying to keep it as these people are drawing the lines, they are not considering, they've been told by the citizens on the group that's drawing the lines, they've been told not to even look at where the current politicians and incumbents live. Just draw the lines according to what the census shows, where people are.
Okay, I got to ask you, Judith, is watching these hearings like going to a football game or like watching the paint dry on a wall?
Oh no, it's somewhere in between maybe, but they've really, most of the meetings they're holding in person and a few people are outside and all, but you just sit there and they do all the work of switching the pictures back and forth. So you're looking at a map and you're hearing a voice and so on. And it, you know, I'm so fascinated, I forget to go get a drink of water. You know, it's just really, and if you've traveled around this Commonwealth of Virginia and looked at the mountains and the rivers and the valleys and the bridges and the tunnels and the cities and the countries and the interstates, you'll know what they're talking about.
It sounds fascinating. It actually does sound fascinating. How did you get involved? Did somebody say, Judith, we really like you and we want you to come, or did you have to pick up a phone, or how do you get involved in watching paint dry?
Well, the easiest way is to go to the website of a group like the League of Women Voters, or some of our partner groups like the NAACP, and to look for a nonpartisan group.
You're muted, Judith. I love technology. You got on, there you go.
All right, sorry. Where were we?
So how to get involved?
How to get involved. I think look for a nonpartisan group, because if you get hooked first into a partisan group, you're only going to hear one side of it. So look for a nonpartisan group, and they will be groups like the League of Women Voters, or the NAACP, which is one of our partner groups. And you can look at the website. You don't have to join. You can use the things on the website. Now, as we're coming up to an election, we have a very special way that the league has set up for you to know what's happening in the election, and that's a special website called Vote 411. We can talk about that as we get into this coming election.
Okay, because I mean, to be candid with you, half the time I'm getting all this mail from candidates now, and like, what is truth? So by going with a nonpartisan nonprofit like the League of Women Voters, they kind of vet out and do the fact checking in that. But you're not going to tell me who to vote for, though, are you?
Oh no, and I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for, and I'm probably not going to ask you who you're going to vote for. I mean, why would I? That's not my job.
Right.
But to get the information where you can find it, all those mailings that you get, if they're from a party or from a candidate, I'd suggest you just put them aside. Don't throw them away. Well, you can, but I don't throw mine away. I put them over on the side of my desk in a folder. And when I get around to really looking at who I'm going to vote for, those will probably be the last things I look at. I'll go to the nonpartisan things or the bipartisan things.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, on the national, it's gotten crazy. Politics has gotten crazy. So kind of cleaning that clutter aside. Now, the September 28th is going to be an important time for the League of Women Voters and voting, about making sure that people are registered, right?
Right. And most of us registered at some time in our life, I guess, but things change, like your address changes. And that it's important to be up to date on that. People go to college, people move to a different place. And they need to, and sometimes moving to a different place means that you're going to see different things on your ballot from what you saw the last time. So it's important to do that and get your address changed with the place where you're living now. Be sure that you're in there.
So each city in Hampton Roads, we've talked state with the redistricting, but each city has a voter registrar's office.
Yes.
Right. So that's really where you go to find out.
And boy, talk about nonpartisan. They are great. I mean, we trust them, and they're very trustworthy and clear in their instructions. And it's not easy. We've tried to write instructions for things, and Bob, you've probably received some that we've put out and so on. And it's not easy. We check it with them and all, and still things change a lot and dates change a lot, and the exact way that you state something is important, but they're very good. Your city registrar's office is best, and they seem to be able to keep up with phone calls and emails.
Well, and I mentioned, and I'm not going to put you on the spot with dates, because there's all kinds of dates now. It used to be election day was between 7 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night. And now there's early voting, there's absentee voting. So it really is important to kind of catch up with what these dates are.
Right. Now, early voting has already started. It started last Friday. So you can vote if you're, I assume most of your viewers are in Norfolk. Let's talk about Norfolk. In Norfolk, you can go right now to City Hall. If you have any doubt about that, I was on the light rail the other night and passed by downtown and looked over at City Hall, and the campaign signs are all over the lawn. So you know when that's happening, this is a place to vote. And that's the way Norfolk does it. So you can go down there anytime that City Hall's open, from now up through the end of October. And they'll have even some special Saturdays and things later on when you can go. But right now is a weekday, and it's the open hours, and I could walk in there right now carrying my identification and my own list of who I'm going to vote for. So I'm ready for that. And I could vote this morning or this afternoon or tomorrow.
And we need to make it clear too, you don't have to have an excuse for voting early anymore.
That's right. We're moving more and more to the early. And my goodness, why not? Who knows what's going to happen on November the 2nd? We might be having a hurricane.
That's true.
So I'm all for doing. I did it early the last election, and it was so painless and so fast. And I thought, was I standing in line and the rain and things? That's not necessary anymore.
So going back to the League of Women Voters, where the politicians are driving some of the conversation, where does the League of Women Voters sit with like some of the issues in Texas or some of the other states where they're tightening down? Does the League of Women Voters take a position, or what is the position on voting?
Wait a minute, you got to be a little more specific than that. Well, we have lots of positions.
Okay, how do you guys go about developing your positions?
All right. Remember, we have positions at the national level, at the state level, and at the local level. And I've been involved at the local level. We did a new position for our local league on transportation a few years ago. And we spent about 2 years doing that. We studied transportation. We had speakers come in from HRT and from the District Planning Commission and so on. We talked about the different cities and what it meant there and how it's done. And we looked at highways and bridges and tunnels, and we looked at public transit, and we think new things coming on like ride shares and Uber and Lyft and buy tricycles and bicycles and scooters. And we looked at all those things and said, wow, we need to have all of these things mentioned, as well as things that don't even exist yet in our position. So we worked on it a couple of years, talked about it, had special meetings. And then finally at an official meeting, annual meeting, we voted it in. So that's now what we here in Hampton Roads can use as we advocate with our cities and counties and with our planning district commission or with HRT, for example. We can base it on any of that. Now, on another topic, we may not have much of a local position, so we depend on the state position. And the last few years, we've been working on affordable housing. And that has become, while we've been working on it, it's come into the news almost every day during the pandemic. And we started on that about 3 years ago, and last year voted on that position. So that one has to do with the state laws and where things need to be, what's the current situation and what's the future of affordable housing throughout the state of Virginia. And then where does the pressure need to be put there, and what are the principles that you look for, and what's fair to all sides, and so on.
Wow.
Once that's done, we can advocate on the basis of that, advocate with our city governments, advocate with the General Assembly, advocate with the national, with the Congress.
Judith, one of the things we're discovering, we're almost out of time, that it's very easy to put a post on Facebook and say, here's my opinion, live with it, guys. And it sounds like there's a lot of work that goes behind developing a good position. So thank you. For that person who wants to make a difference, what would you suggest their first step being?
Be sure you're up to date on the upcoming election. this is a good place to start and see and think about what you're seeing. So I again suggest that you go to Vote 411, which the League of Women Voters organizes, and our members have contacted every candidate who's on our ballots in all of our 5 cities and Southampton roads. And the state league has done it for the state and so on. So go there and see how the questions are asked, see how the questions are answered, see who's answering, see who's not answering, and start thinking about what that means to you and the issues that you care about. Because probably some of those issues, the candidates are stating they're answering our questions on that. Then if you want to get involved with the league or ask us questions, go to our website, which is LWV, League of Women Voters, -SHR, Southampton Roads, LWV-SHR.org. And play around with that. You can join us as a member, or you can just use our website as a way to learn some more about what's going on. We'd love to be in touch with you. We also have Facebook. We also have many different ways that you can get involved with us. But look at our website.
Judith, I have been in awe of you for the years and years that I've known you. Your willingness to get in there and take a walk if you need to get involved. It doesn't begin on election day. It begins by being informed. Thank you for everything that you've done. And we're looking forward to having a big election day that makes a difference.
Yes.
In all of our lives.
Right.
You got it. Thanks a lot. And again, stay safe and stay connected.